Hi Stonewall, I'm Monica CV and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Glad to have you today. We are talking about the heart. Now, rounding up the trio of character-driven characters that aren't necessarily mechanical strictly, is the heart. There is no easy way to say that sentence, but that's the best way I can get it. In my last two videos, I talked about the main character and the Lancer respectively. So, rounding out this trio is the heart. The heart as a character has gone through many characterization-based changes. Good, because the needs of the heart have changed. Originally, before being called the heart, it was called the chick. If you don't know why it's called the chick, look at old shows like Ninjago or Transformers or Power Rangers or any superhero shows that have groups of 3 to 5 or bigger sometimes. Or I'm just gonna outright and say it if you haven't figured it out by this point. It's called the chick because it's the only girl in the group. Who would have thought? But the chick as a character did not do anything bad. The writing was bad sometimes, but the chick itself had some good things about it. The chick was originally meant to do a few things outside of the normal role of the heart. Thing number 1, represent girls in a guy-based team. So, there was a problem that a bunch of superhero and comic book-based shows had a problem with: funding. The solution to this is selling toys. So, in these types of shows, if toys aren't selling, the show ain't running. Plain and simple. You can blame this problem for why a lot of great shows got capped off early because the toys weren't selling. This problem is a lot less common nowadays, where selling stuff isn't the main purpose of the show, but there are a few still out there where the main idea is selling toys. Again, Transformers, Power Rangers, Ninjago. Buy toys, that's basically the propaganda these shows are giving us. The problem with having a guy-only cast or a guy-majority cast is that that cuts the market rate sellers down in half. So the solution: add one girl to the team, probably change a character that you originally had as a guy, just give them a skirt. And bingo bamo, you have a character who will sell girl toys. Don't do this. Now, technically speaking, it does work mechanically. You have a character that little girls can relate to if you write them right. Okay, don't add all of the following tropes that you need in a female character into one because you're too much of a coward to write multiple female leads. I am so glad this has been phased out of media. Just saying. This form of the heart also functioned as guaranteeing the main character a woman to actually fall in love with. At least one of them. A lot of the time, the chick was designated as love interest, sister, or both to some of the characters in the group. Nia is an example of being both of these, a sister and love interest, but two different characters. She is a good example of the old formula heart, without her being a real chick-type character. Mia does have the problem of not having much screen time, especially early on. When they do eventually give her more stuff to do outside of just being the little sister character and actually doing stuff, it's pretty cool. And then they kind of ruin it, but that's the later seasons I stopped watching. Mia's main characteristics isn't being a main character or being the main character's sister or being a main character's love interest. Hers is that she's basically the behind comms character. One of my favorite types of characters is the one behind the comms. I'm just saying, they're awesome. This was Nia's character early on. She would be the one doing all the tech stuff behind the scenes, making sure that the guys aren't dying by basically giving the info before they go out into the field, or while they're out in the field. She's the one in their head. That's basically how she's kind of categorized for the first few episodes. But eventually, she gets a mecha. She gets a mecha. She gets a mecha. She gets a mecha! Back when she was still the samurai, that was the coolest she was gonna get. And I don't mean that she wasn't cool when she became a ninja. I'm just saying she was better as a samurai. Because if you want to appeal to little girls, as a former child girl who liked to buy toys, if you want to sell to girls, give them character a freaking mecha. You don't need to make it pink or unicorns or anything. Just give us this. Please. This is an excellent way to sell girls on this sort of thing, because having a girl character in a freaking samurai mecha. I'm sorry, just thinking about it just is so cool. That was kind of my childhood, just saying. A character who is a chick is automatically going to be shouldered with a lot of stuff. Because if she is the only main female lead in the group, you're going to have the problem of too much on the plate, especially if you decide to add teen mom on top of love interest sister. Which gets pretty weird if she's the love interest and she's also teen mom and it's not randomized. There's a few examples of acting as a teen mom and still being the love interest without it being janky. Thank freaking goodness. Because if it's a group where there's the main character, all the other characters are guys, and there's this one girl, it's going to be the easiest writing decision just to pair the main character off with the girl in the group than it is pairing it off with any other character outside of the group. And this was back in the day where they didn't want to acknowledge that you could team the guy main character with another guy in the group. But they didn't want to acknowledge that at the time. The cowards. 9 times out of 10, if the heart is in the group, she's going to be at least one character's love interest, if not all of theirs at once. Which kind of sucks, because it kind of gets the heart in the automatic damsel chair. The damsel chair is basically the character's main purpose is to get kidnapped or be put in dangerous situations that the other characters have to save. Being a main hero of the group and consistently getting kidnapped is going to get on everyone's nerves. That's why Daphne and Scooby-Doo had to actually grow a backbone and become a useful character outside of just being the one who gets kidnapped all the time. Thank goodness. Now, a character who is designed to consistently be just the girl is going to have the problem of trying to appeal to all girls. If your character is trying to appeal to everyone, they're going to appeal to no one. That's basically the common thing I'm saying throughout these videos. You can't have every single person like a character because no one's going to like this character as a result. More is less is more. Plain and simple. The heart is the emotional drive and center of the group. If you need a character to outright say that they like having fun with the other characters, the heart is the one to do it. In an ensemble cast, especially one that is not rotating every episode, it is important for the characters to like each other. This is not an odd thing to think about, but there are some shows who forget this. I'm not naming names, not today at least. That's for the group episode thing. The group is a different video altogether that I'm not going to make today. But when characters like each other, we should have a reason of why they're working together and do like each other. So that's where the heart comes in. This character can actually outright say that they like spending time with the others and care about the others and like doing good things without any type of emotional or, or any need for reciprocation from anyone. Because the heart's purpose is to help people in the emotional drive. That's the entire idea behind this trope and characterization. The heart is the helper, the person who cares, the shoulder to lean on, the person that they go to. But there are a few traps that a heart can fall into when it comes down to forgetting how to write a heart. A heart doesn't necessarily need to be the only emotional drive in the group. A lot of the times, and I kind of love this trope, the big guy or powerhouse, aka the one with the highest body count, has some characteristics shared by the heart. Being kind and fun-loving, being the one who really doesn't care about the gruesome consequences, the one who's trusting. A lot of the times, the powerhouse does have some of these characteristics, and I kind of find that cute. The big, hulking, very, very strong one having the heartwarming characteristics is really sweet. But the purpose of the heart isn't just so that the group of 5 is rounded out. It's so that the group of 5 has something to connect about. It isn't just, oh, they're working together. It turns the group of a 5-man band into a group of 4 work colleagues into an actual team of friends. Think Starfire from Teen Titans. The original Teen Titans, not that go garbage. Hiya! It's gone now, don't worry. Talk too long. Throat's killing me. But the heart, Starfire in this case, is, well, the kind character who goes out of her way to help the others. Well, the others could be at each other's throats for one reason or another. Starfire, the literal alien of the group who has no clue how this planet should work, is the one who's trying to help and bridge gaps by being kind. The heart's purpose isn't to be as strong or as daring or as brave as the others. They're the one who should be able to get on the level of everyone else, even if they don't understand everything else. Another good example of this is Otahime from Bleach. I'm surprised it took me this long to actually talk about Bleach on this character on this channel. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a Bleach mask right in there, right in the cabinet right there, that I sometimes accidentally hit my fist on. Ow. But Otahime has the token characteristics that most hearts have. Occasionally getting kidnapped, being a little bit aloof, being kind and caring, having people worry about her when she's in danger, along with having healing powers that are very OP, having some sort of guard or shield ability, oh yeah, and having a very, very terrifying offense attack. Heart characters are unintentionally terrifying with some of their powers, and I'm just saying that because a lot of the time the most terrifying member of the group is the heart. I'll get to the rest of you later. But Otahime is in a world that's a majority Lancer. She's the one who's the kind and caring heart, who connects with on the same level as a lot of other characters. And I am very glad that she is there in the Bleach cast, because at first she can seem like she's originally going to be built up as the, not really in the main group, chick type character, with her kind of getting in danger with hollows and not really being able to do much, until we learn that she has some very, very powerful people watching her back. When she does get in trouble, it's because she cares about her friends a lot. And she worries that as she's not really a fighter or offensive-based character, that she might slow the others down or get them in trouble because they have to help her. That's what a heart should be. Moving gears to another heart. Okay, you guys knew it was coming. I'm wearing the Avatar The Last Airbender hat. I'm talking about Avatar The Last Airbender, and no one can stop me! Mahahaha! Katara from Avatar The Last Airbender is a wonderful heart example for a similar reason that Otahime is. Well, she's the automatic healer of the group because she is OP, and if she was strictly a combatant, everyone else would be freaking terrified of her. We'll get to the reason why later. Katara fills the role as a heart in the original group that was just comprised of Sokka, Aang, and her, along with Appa and Momo, but as the token mascot character in basically the ride, they don't really fill that many characteristic tropes. She's the one who automatically trusts Aang and believes he has great potential. And as the only waterbender in the Southern Water Tribe, she goes to him to hopefully learn some waterbending. Because you can't really learn something if no one's there to really teach her it. Because you can't self-teach yourself something when you have no one to show you what it is that you should be doing. So, the biggest problem with Katara learning waterbending in the South Pole was her being the only one there. She's also technically the only girl who is not an old lady or child. From what we can see from the shot of the village, she's the only teen girl who's in her specific village. Yes, it's kind of implied that there are some other villages across the Southern Water Tribe that are kind of disconnected due to the war. But her village is basically comprised of mostly middle-aged women, or young mid-adult women, old ladies, and children, with her and Sokka being the only ones who can really bridge the gap. And Sokka being the oldest boy kind of puts him in the position of, well, hierarchy, even though he's still a child. With Katara fulfilling the role as taking care of him after their mother's death, immediately putting her in the heart category of Team Mom. Yay! She's still terrifying. As we go through the first season adventure, trying to get to the North Pole to actually learn some waterbending, because Aang the Avatar got an avatar, basically. Katara is slowly also learning some new skills. And she has to do some things that could probably not be classified as hard. Katara is not classified as a chick because she does make mistakes that aren't necessarily that heart-worthy. For example, in Season 1, she steals from pirates. Why she steals from pirates is simple. Because it's going to take them a while to actually get to the North Pole, her solution was to start teaching Aang waterbending with what she knew, thinking that he would take some time to catch up to her, because she's the waterbender. But because Aang has already mastered some type of bending, he's the Avatar, and knows what he's kind of doing with this sort of thing, he kind of gets off to a better start than she is, mastering a move that she created and hasn't even fully mastered yet, which annoys her, which, fair enough. So, she steals a waterbending scroll from pirates so that she can learn some new waterbending moves, pegging it as a way for, well, her and Aang to learn waterbending, instead of just her. Which leads the Aang into some trouble with said pirates and Prince Zuko. Yeah, he's still on Team Bad Guy here. If you want to hear about Zuko, watch my last video. But this episode gives us an instant of Heart making a mistake because, well, she could have pegged it on her trying to be selfless. She was being selfish. Something that a heart is often characterized is as a selfless and helpful person. Not all hearts are going to make automatically the selfless decision every single time. That's not how you write a character. Not every single person in the world is going to be a very selfless person. So, having a heart who's actually actively being a character who can and, well, is making some mistakes not related to the trope is good character writing if it's not out of character. Katara has grown up her entire life as being the last bender of the Southern Water Tribe. And immediately beating her at bending water, something that she was basically the only benchmark that she has ever seen, kind of took away her thing of being the waterbender. So, in retaliation, she tried to get ahead by stealing something that could help her. Don't worry, by the end of the episode, she learned that stealing is wrong. Unless it's from pirates. Moving up the Earth's Kingdom, trying to get to the Northern Water Tribe, she gets an encounter of being the heart and a problem that the heart will have. Hearts are naturally going to be very trusting, very forgiving characters. Makes sense, because they're the empathy of the group. And also the automatic healers. The Green runs into Jet. If you don't know anything about Avatar The Last Airbender and you met Jet, you would think, oh, Katara's love interest. Which, fair enough, because similar to her brother, Katara was very, very popular with the guys. Well, Sokka was very popular with the gals. Just saying. Katara, being the waterbender and also the heart, is very, very trusting of Jet, who compliments her on her bending when they first meet, is very brave, very kind, and a better leader than Sokka at this moment. And, her first crush. You not lie and say that what her and Jet were doing this episode was completely platonic. But at the end of the episode, she learned Jet is kind of a war criminal. Jet and his freedom fighters were planning to, flood an entire valley with a village of Fire Nation civilians, just to get the Fire Nation to leave this valley of the Earth Kingdom. Which is an actual war crime, or at least adjacent to one, in my opinion. I have not read the Geneva Conventions, but I do know they exist. If you have not already noticed, I don't really write an actual full-out script for these. But Katara learned that Jet was planning to actually kill these people, along with him kind of implying that he had his friends kidnap or tie Sokka somewhere. So, Katara automatically gets peeved and attacks. Because hearts are supposed to protect, but also they do attack. Katara being betrayed like this is going to be important later on when they meet Jet again. Throughout their entire adventure in Season 1, Katara does go out of her way to help people. For example, when she meets someone hiding his earthbending. Katara grew up in the Southern Water Tribe, somewhere where she was the only waterbender. And here's the problem. We don't learn this right away, but learning this later on is something that kind of does recontextualize an entire scene. The Southern Water Tribe was bombarded for years with by the Fire Nation. And Katara's mother died during one of these raids. During one of these raids, we kind of get an implication during this flashback that not only is it common for them to round up waterbenders in the Southern Water Tribe, but it's expected that they will take them as prisoners. That's kind of what was going on in this episode when it comes down to what was happening with the Earthbenders in this town. Katara's immediate reaction is to help and free these Earthbenders, even though in this prison they gave up hope. So, what does she do? Gives them hope by finding them coal, because they're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and the boat's made of metal. And metal bending isn't invented yet. Not yet, at least. Wait for Season 2. When she does finally make it to the Northern Water Tribe, along with Aang and Sokka, she discovers sexism. Isn't that that's kind of why the heart was originally the way it was. She learns that in the Northern Water Tribe, it is not allowed for women to learn how to fight. Instead, they have to be automatic healers. Which is bullshit. Shirt. I said shirt. So, Katara, who's already a great healer, is very peeved about this. Because she wants to learn how to fight so she can help her friends. Boing! So she does show that she does have what it takes to learn waterbending combatively. And shows the sexist old guy who just so happened to be her grandmother's ex-fiancé. Oh, the whole thing. So she gets to learn water bending compatibility, good, and gross, having several wins because of how skilled she is as a waterbender. But her greatest strength isn't on the battlefield, it's her empathy and caring. That's the point of the heart. We see this throughout Season 2 as well. Most notably in her interaction with Toph. Katara being, for the longest time, the only girl in the group, did kind of make her a bit relieved when Toph joined, another girl, until she learned Toph was just as bad, if not worse, than the guys. Pretty early on in Toph joining the group, Katara learns that Toph does not want other people's help. When I talk about the powerhouse, I'll talk about Toph because them's the rules. Toph's entire character arc is not wanting help, while Katara's entire personality is around helping people. And in a group where you have to help each other to survive, you can see why these two personalities will grate on each other very immensely. And it doesn't help that this episode has them being basically sleep deprived while being chased. So that does not help tension. So Katara has to kind of swallow her pride, and so does Toph, so that they can actually survive this mess and not die. With Katara throughout Season 2, later on when they're stuck in the desert, she also has to bear the burden of keeping the group from infighting because they lost Appa, aka their ride. Being stuck in a desert without any way to escape is going to suck, especially if your main power is about something that is not in the desert. Now, technically speaking, she could have bent the cactus juice, because that's probably a majority water, but yeah, I can see why she did not do cactus bending. Katara felt like she was consistently useless throughout the desert, especially with Aang, who was in a very, very bad mood throughout the entire time that they were there, because he lost his best friend. And no one else, in his mind, was showing the same amount of concern. Katara having to keep the group together while Sokka was tripping on cactus juice, Toph couldn't see properly because the sand is all fuzzy, and Aang was going through emotional turmoil because he couldn't save his best friend, and her not being able to actually fight is how you write a heart going through turmoil. When they finally do make it out of the desert, and they have to go through the Serpent's Path because danger and death, fun, Katara shows concern that while Aang in the desert was consistently only focused on fighting Appa, he's not letting himself feel that anymore because he nearly completely killed several sandbenders in the desert due to him flipping out, learning that they muzzled Appa. The Avatar state is terrifying, people. Aang did not want to lose control about that like that again, so he wasn't letting himself feel that way, or feeling any hope that they'll get out of the situation. Katara, her second catchphrase being have hope, her first catchphrase being the death of my mother, or her mother, basically. Yeah, all Team Avatar have their own memeable phrases. Katara's entire driving force being hope and kindness, and Aang not being able to have hope at this moment, is kind of testing her in the way that she has to support him when he doesn't want to be supported. He just wants to get through this difficult time. So, through their arc in the Serpent's Path, Aang has to grapple with the fact of he has to find another way to get Appa back. And Katara has to help him by being the heart and being the supported character that she has been throughout the entire series. In the end, after helping a friendly lady that they met while going through the Serpent's Path give birth, Katara and Aang finally have a heart-to-heart, where Aang finally admits what has been bugging him the entire time, and Katara is there to support him. An important part of being the heart is being the character that others go to lean on. And that's what Katara is. The character to lean on and the character who will give support to others. Which, good writing. Aang goes off to go and find Appa and Ba Sing Se, get sidetracked because drill, and then several other shenanigans happen where the Team Avatar, after arriving in Ba Sing Se, learned that talking about the war is illegal. They are going to be consistently and utterly monitored. And they better not act out of line or they won't find Appa. So time for a funny little episode where we get to see what all of our friends that we have made throughout the show are doing while in Ba Sing Se. Seriously? Tales of Ba Sing Se are awesome, and they need more love in my opinion. Not just Tales of Iroh, but also the tale of Katara and Toph. So, time for a girls' spa day. So, Katara, who has spent most of the show being the only girl in the group, decided to take the other girl in the group, Toph, out for a spa day. Toph, being this titular tomboy, does not really want to do this, especially since she spent her entire life being having to act all prim and proper and get dressed up for stuff. But Katara makes it fun, and they go and torture people at the spa. By torture, utterly freak out the people working with them. And it is very touching since Katara and Toph consistently throughout the show butt heads, making this episode very cute, especially when they definitely murder a few girls. I'm just saying that Katara pushed these girls downstream at high speeds. There's no way they don't have broken spines. But one of the cutest lines from this episode is Katara telling Toph that she is beautiful. And Toph returning the favor, but then pointing out at the exact same time that she has no clue what Katara looks like because she is blind. When it comes down to the end of Season 2, Katara's healing skills come into clutch with her, well, at first, offering to heal Zuko's scar, but when he betrays them and goes back to Team Evil, she does not heal his scar. She ends up healing Aang, who was actually dead. He was dead, and there was not much they could do about it. Except Spirit Water, Chekhov's gun. Very useful that she held on to that even in the desert where she had no other water to use. When it came down to it, her healing powers is what saved the Avatar, Aang, and saved the rest of the group so that they can fight another day. Continuing on into Season 3, we see Katara struggling with another thing. Something that the heart is supposed to be good at is forgiveness. And kind of jogging back to Season 2, Jet, when he showed up again, didn't exactly get the forgiving end of the heart treatment. Because Katara was on site with him. Like, on site. When Jet showed up again, claiming that he wants to help, Katara's immediate reaction, and understandable reaction, is not to trust him. Because last time, he convinced them to do war crimes. I mean, not the first or the last time the Team Avatar is probably going to do that. And Toph correctly assumes and guesses that Jet was Katara's ex. Good job, Toph. Good job. By working with Jet, not only did Jet lose his life and Katara, get heartbroken again, with their trust being tested. That's how they got Appa back. And it's kind of not clear if Jet did die. It's kind of unclear. But it is confirmed that he did die. He is dead. Rip. Katara, as a heart, is meant to be forgiving. That's her main characteristic. But at the same time, it's also to be trusting, and that trust is going to be tested again. But with forgiveness, we have the problem of Katara and Sokka's dad. He left several years before the main story began to help fight the Fire Nation after his wife was murdered. Which, fair enough, everyone grieves in different ways. Does not everyone leave their young and vulnerable children alone for several years without any ability to call them to go fight a war? He was thinking of his children's future, and this is not the last time in Avatar canon where Katara is very, very direct with how she feels about decisions her father makes. With this, Katara is kind of denying that she has any problem with her dad. Even though, if you have ears, eyes, and can actually understand any language, you will pretty obviously see that she is having problems with her dad, but isn't willing to say it. Until the end of the episode, where she actually finally has to say it. Now, she is mad at him for leaving when they were in such a vulnerable state. And she was mad that he was not there when her and Sokka needed him. And all this other stuff. Moving forward with this, Katara gets several other instances of having to be the kind and understanding heart to the rest of the group. Because now they're in enemy territory, because this is Book Fire. So, they're in the Fire Nation. Fair enough. Now comes for the time for the episode where Team Avatar goes to a village that's in peril. As the heart, Katara is going to automatically do the selfless thing without any expectation or want for a reward. For instance, this village was starving, sick, and the river was filthy. Katara, being the kind person she is who can healed their sick, and the villagers, saying that this was the doing of some magic spirit that protects the river, known as the Painted Lady, started celebrating the Painted Lady for doing this. So Katara decided to roll with it. After making the rest of the group think Appa was sick so they couldn't leave, she decided to dress up similar to the Painted Lady to go and help the people of this town by giving them food, healing their sick, and doing all sorts of other stuff. Now, Sokka points out a problem the third day that they go to the village to get some food. AKA by food, I mean very heavily mutated fish. What the hey is that factory putting into the water? Nope, never mind, don't want to know. Don't want to know. Anyways, that clears my sleep paralysis demon, and I will be taking no further questions. Sokka points out on their third day of visiting the village and noticing that how happy the villagers are now that the Painted Lady has been helping them. Sokka points out the obvious, that the Painted Lady better keep doing this or they'll go back to exactly how they were in the first place. And if she really wanted to help them, she might as well just blow up the factory. The Katara plan is to blow up the factory. Remember when I mentioned that the Team Avatar helping out was not the first or the last time they committed a few war crimes? Yeah, this is one of them. Katara was the help of Aang, who figured out that she was a Painted Lady because Avatar connecting with spirits, and he believed his flying bison was sick. So he's going to ask the person who's been helping this village to help his best friend. But finding out that it was just Katara feeding Appa, so berries making his tongue look purple. Aang was completely and utterly fine with blowing up the factory. Yep. After Katara worked through everything and helped the village, and kind of had to reveal herself as a Painted Lady because the Fire Nation soldiers blamed the village, so Team Avatar had to scare them off by using a lot of trickery and a lot of fun stuff. And they decided to clean up the river so that the villagers would be helped permanently and not have to wait for the village to be cleaned. By leaving, Katara did help the villagers, and she expected nothing in return. In fact, she got ridiculed and the villagers turned on her the second that they learned that she wasn't the Painted Lady. But it took persuading from Sokka and a little bit more trickery from Toph, the goblin, that the villagers did not turn on her and allowed Katara, the waterbender, to help clean the river. So they cleaned the river. Good job. Moving on deeper into Season 3, we see something very, very sick and twisted. And this is not an episode to watch at night, by the way. The Puppet Master is not something you should watch at night. So if you are watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time and get to this episode at night, late at night, stop this series right there, go to bed, and watch it bright and early the next morning. That way, it'll haunt your dreams less. Not even joking, this episode is terrifying because it introduces us to something that is sick and twisted. The plot of this episode leads more into Katara's kind nature and how she is the last waterbender of the Southern Water Tribe. We meet the character of Hama, the other last waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe. An old lady who a long time ago was captured by the Fire Nation, imprisoned, and somehow, air quotations, somehow, escaped. Katara immediately bonds with Hama, as Katara's mother is dead. Hama is a waterbender from her tribe, and understands her culture, and can actually connect with Katara in that way. While Sokka is very, very suspicious of her, from the get-go. Similar to how he was with Jet. Similar to how he was with anyone that the Team Avatar has trusted blindly. Because there's a difference with Sokka being annoyed and jealous of people, and Sokka immediately just trusting them. Sokka has a good gut instinct is all I'm saying. The side plot of this episode, that kind of connects back to the main plot, is villagers from the Fire Nation town are supposedly being kidnapped by evil spirits during the time of the full moon. Well, Toph suggests that the moon just went bad, Sokka taking immediate offense to this because his first girlfriend became the moon. Long story. While Aang, as the Avatar, wanted to solve this problem because, as the Avatar, bridge from people and spirits, he has to do something. So they try to do something and try to find information about the people who are being kidnapped. Meanwhile, Katara is learning some new waterbending moves from Hama. Like, for example, taking water out of plants. What I suggested she do was the cactus juice, but again, I don't think you want to or should bend hallucinogenic cactus juice. Hama teaches her several other waterbending tricks that she had picked up while living in the Fire Nation, and told Katara that night, which was the full moon, she'll show her one more very special and powerful move that can only be done during the full moon. Katara is immediately kind of skeptical about this because people have been going missing, but two very powerful and strong waterbenders under the full moon, what you gonna do about that? So, Katara goes through this while Team Avatar is learning who's behind the kidnappings. Simultaneously, they learn about one thing. One, Hama's the one doing this, and two, how much is Katara what bloodbending is? If you have not watched this episode, bloodbending is something waterbenders can do under the full moon. And later we learned in Legend of Korra that if you are skilled enough in normal bloodbending, you can bloodbend anytime, anywhere, not just under the full moon. What bloodbending does is manipulate the water inside someone's blood. And guess what? You're filled up with a lot of it. Meaning, the person bloodbending can manipulate the person that they're bloodbending on like a puppet. And the visuals are the definition of terrifying. What the duck. Katara, being a kind and loving person, refuses to do this, especially since Hama has been doing this to innocent villagers who were either A, not even born yet during this time, B, not even old enough to have been connected to this, and C, most importantly of all, aren't Fire Nation soldiers who did this to her. Hama is taking out her fear and anger against the Fire Nation on innocent civilians, similar to what Jet was doing. Katara refusing to bloodbend, and Hama being peeved that Katara won't learn this very, very disgusting skill. The two fight, but it's hard to fight someone who is using your body like a puppet. That's where the name of the episode comes from. And it especially doesn't help when Sokka and Aang show up to help Katara because they found out the truth. Basically just gives Hama 2 extra puppets because she is very OP. Katara, to stop the fight and keep Sokka from accidentally impaling Aang, has to do the worst. Bloodbend. And this is something that haunts Katara. Katara bloodbending is something that clearly broke her from what we've seen. Katara is not really a combative-based character. She's a badass in a fight, that's for sure. But she's always not been one of the characters whose first instinct isn't just to fight or throw down. Oftentimes, she's more often defending her friends, deflecting attacks, or trying to disarm her opponents, or just stop them from attacking. She never really goes in for the kill. And bloodbending is not doing any of this, and is just automatically dangerous and is not good. Period. So, Hama taken down, and Katara was the skill that she will never use. The game keeps going. And in Season 3, we get the redemption of Zuko, and him joining the team. And Katara dropping the best example of, you can't say dead or killed in a kid's show. So see this instead! Great alternative, threaten with the erasure of someone's existence. To the Shadow Realm. Katara only warms up to Zuko when he offers to help her get revenge on the killer of her mother. One of her meme catchphrases. I mentioned in my last video about Lancers, Katara's quest for vengeance. And, well, this episode ends with a few things. Katara forgiving Zuko, Katara turning away from vengeance and not killing her mother's killer, and something that's not a lesson of the day but also terrifying, Zuko learned what bloodbending is with little to no explanation, because I doubt the rest of the gang caught Zuko up to all of their adventures, and let alone brought up a really sore spot for Katara. So yeah, Zuko learned what bloodbending is and learned that Katara could have bloodbent him at any time, because Katara probably did not mention that she can only do this during the full moon. Wait, in that episode, was it even on a full moon that night that Katara decided to use bloodbending? And either way, we learn later on in Legend of Korra that if you train enough of bloodbending, you can do it anytime, so the whole full moon thing does not really matter. But moving on to towards the end of Season 3, Katara beats Azula. I mentioned in my last video how it's more fitting that Katara, the heart in this situation, beat the dragon, and also how cathartic it is. But Katara growing from a very unconfident, unexperienced bender to a freaking badass who chooses not to use a broken ability just because of her morals, respectable, very respectable, and also slightly less terrifying, but still terrifying that she can do that. Compared to Azula, who started up as a very confident prodigy who was to be feared, going from this manic, uncoordinated, unorganized, very scary blowtorch and who was breathing, who had no real plan in the situation besides to take down anyone in her path, it's fitting because their character arcs are their characters in reverse. So, Katara beating Azula made more sense than Zuko doing it. Especially since, after the fight, Katara had to heal Zuko, who had a very bad wound. Again, he got struck by lightning. Katara, as a heart, eventually ending up with Aang makes sense. Because that's one of the quickest things that you can do with any romantic pairings in TV shows. Just pair the heart and the main character together. Which, yeah, works throughout the show. Something I like to point out about this thing is the scene had Aang and Katara hugging before they kissed. Not blushing, they just hugged. Because their relationship started out as them being friends and very, very close. Very, very close friends who understood each other. And it's very sweet because this is where they started. And it eventually led into them kissing. It's not like in Ember Island Players where Katara was not ready for a relationship while Aang really, really wanted to be with her after everything they've been through. It's not like right before the invasion on the solar eclipse, where the two thought this was they were near the end and they could actually talk about this later because they wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. It wasn't any other time throughout the series where the two were close to showing that they had feelings together. The war was over. They could actually have this conversation and be together. And I know there was plenty of people who wanted Katara and Zuko to get together, but no, that relationship works better just as two understanding friends. We don't need that much complication everywhere else. Aang and Katara as two people who understood each other ending up together makes sense, because not only is Katara the heart of the group, but Aang is a heart-based protagonist. This is a great segue for heart protagonists, so yes, I planned that out completely and utterly. I did not just improv that on the spot. Aang is what we would call a heart protagonist. Heart protagonist, similar to a heart, is a kind and caring individual who's very open about emotions. Aang is very much a heart protagonist in the same way Steven Universe is. A kind kid who just wants to help everyone. Aang throughout the entire show, not only because it's his job as the Avatar, but as a caring person, wants to help people, and he loves going on adventures. The heart protagonist is going to be a very naive and, well, kind of optimistic and starry-eyed character at the beginning. Especially if they're wanting to go into a world that they have no experience into. Heart protagonists are mostly going to focus on them learning and, well, experiencing the world as a slightly more darker place. This is where a lot of old-time princesses come in from old storytelling. Princesses and hearts have a lot of characteristics that they share, most notably being kind and loving individuals that are likable right away. Because they're just good. Not nice where there's some sort of transaction happening. Just good people who want to help but are in bad circumstances. I'm going to rant about Snow White real quick. We have not had that many modern iterations of Snow White. And we have a live-action Snow White on the way that no one is liking for political reasons. And while I'm not liking it because they misunderstand the character of Snow White. Snow White is a heart protagonist through and through. Throughout every single version of the story, Snow White has always been a kind, compassionate, loving character in a dark and gloomy and twisted world. That's the struggle of her character. She's a 12-year-old girl in the original and only 14 in the Disney adaptation. The prince is 32. Yikes. She's a character whose arc revolves around whether or not she'll let the darkness consume her. That's the whole metaphor behind the apple. That every single time in the original story that the witch tried to kill Snow White, it was Snow White's friends helping her keep that spark of goodness and still live in a world that wanted her dead. And when the apple technically almost did kill her, it's up to interpretation whether the prince at the end represents death bringing her on to the other world as the darkness took her, or her waking up in a world where she could actually live because the darkness was gone. Snow White is a loving character, a character who loves and cares for others. That's why the dwarfs warmed up to her, because she did something. She cleaned their house, made good food, when she had no clue who these people were. Yes, she did it technically to get a place to sleep the night, but she had no clue if she would even be able to stay. She just wanted a place to rest for a bit. She did something that she didn't need to do because of how caring she is. In a world that is not that caring, that's what Snow White is. A kind and caring character in a world that is unkind. Any adaptation of Snow White that forgets that part of her character makes her a character who needs saving in a normal damsel in distress. That's missing the point of the character. Writing a character who no longer is that kind, joyful character, that's not Snow White. Snow White is a kind and loving soul who loved the people around her, even if the world did not love her back. That's what a heart protagonist is. Another example of a heart that I really want to talk to you about, because Chopper. Actually, I'm going to take a 5-second break because I got to change hats for this. I'm back after changing hats. So, Chopper as the heart is basically a adorable little mascot tag-along kid without the annoying traits of either. With both of these types of characters, a tag-along kid and mascot can get pretty gimmicky, pretty annoying, and pretty just marketable overall, if not done right. Well, Chopper is technically both of these without any of the annoying traits because it's not shoved into our faces every 5 minutes that he's a tag-along kid or mascot. He's an adorable, fun character who's technically acts like the youngest out of all the characters, and according to Oda, is basically the youngest if the crew was a family. He basically acts like an actual member of the crew, while also acting like a child at times without any of the annoying traits. And because of how cute he is, it's basically natural that he'll be a mascot character. I mean, they sell versions of his hats. Can you get any more marketable than that? But Chopper as the heart makes sense because he is the doctor. Yeah, it's basically kind of automatic that most heart characters are going to have some sort of healing abilities if anyone on the crew is going to have actual healing abilities. It's kind of just pick your poison of what type of heart you want to get, and there's not many options. But Chopper, going back to the whole all hearts have some sort of terrifying characteristic to them, yet Chopper's main powers is his points. Chopper, after eating the human fruit, went from a normal reindeer with a blue nose to something that everyone calls a raccoon dog. And if you don't know what a raccoon dog is, it's this. But I'm pretty sure the translation is actually Tanuki, which I don't think I can pull up an image of without, oh, here's an image. Yeah, everyone calls him a raccoon dog for some reason. But Chopper, other than being adorable, main power is his points. By unlocking his double fruit by using rumble balls, basically these little balls that he pops and chews on. Once he pops one of those, he can pick between any of his power abilities, though these are on a time limit. He has different points based on what he needs in any given situation. For instance, guard point, which is just turn them into a fluff ball. But if he eats 2 rumble balls in too short of a time frame, he puts his playlist on shuffle, basically. And if he eats 3, we get Monster Point, which turns this adorable little guy into a freaking Wendigo! At first, Chopper cannot control this, but after time skip, Chopper can, and no longer does he need rumble balls to get into any of his other possessions, into any of his other points. But all he really needs is, but to get to Monster Point, he only needs to have 1 rumble ball. And he can actually control this. But it can only go for 3 minutes, and he cannot move afterwards. So, it does kind of make him a liability. But as the cruise doctor, he's very competent in his craft. And he does get very worried about his crew. And he is very kind and caring to those around him. As long as you don't call him a raccoon, because he's not a raccoon. He's a reindeer. Chopper is an excellent example of a heart, and there are other heart characters. For instance, Piper McLean from Heroes of Olympus. So in my Lancer video, I didn't get a chance to talk about Percy Jackson in the Ryder universe, but in this video, I am talking about the heart of the 7, and that is Piper. Out of all the characters who fill a bunch of the other roles at once, Piper is a good example of a heart whose character arc revolves around how she wants to do more for her group. Piper's biggest character leap is the fact that she does not know how to actually help her friends because her abilities are charm speak and having a pretty face. Charm speak is a trait that children of Aphrodite have, where basically hypnosis, manipulation, and being able to get people to do what she wants. For instance, when she was a thief stealing cars. Kind of funny. But she's basically the diplomat of the group. She is very emotional and caring for others, and often finds the emotional way to do things. While she is technically not a combatant-based character, she is still very useful in a fight. Especially when she had her cornucopia, which I don't know why she does not have it in Trials of Apollo, but nevertheless, when her cornucopia was basically, she can shoot food at people, and if you don't think it's terrifying to get a actual blueberry pie launched at your head at 5 miles an hour, you have clearly never been in a food fight. Piper McLean's entire character revolved around how she wanted to make herself useful to the rest of the group. Even when we see her again in Trials of Apollo, she's still having this kind of problem. Because she still doesn't know where she fits in. Because, technically speaking, she does not really fit in with anyone at Camp Half-Blood in the way of she's not used to that group yet. And she had no real connection to her mother. And she does and we do see her trying to get connections to her Cherokee roots, but because her mother was not Cherokee, she still does not see how she can fit in with it either, even when she was using her grandfather's old blowgun, which I wish she would have used that longer, because that's kind of a cool weapon I would like to see more, blow darts. But throughout her entire character arc as the heart of the 7, she is shown to be the one with the most emotional intelligence of anyone. For instance, in Book 3, where her, Jason, and Percy were getting their essence sucked out by evil nymphs. She basically saw where the nymphs were coming from, in that how they were abandoned and thrown away by the rest of the world. So she decided to help them by being kind. Though she's not the strongest, or can transform, or can fly, or is as intelligent as planning as Annabeth, she does have the strength of being able to connect with others. That's her greatest strength, and that's what all hearts' greatest strengths are. And also, having a cornucopia is freaking terrifying. I'm just saying, launching coconuts at people's heads? What? Rock on. Piper as a heart is, well, that's the best place to put her. while all other members of the Seven, along with Reina and Nico, can fit into other locations a lot better of character traits, Piper being the heart makes the most sense. Because during Trials of Apollo goes to her for advice during their mission to steal some shoes. Very, very long story. That's basically the entire concept of Trials of Apollo. Whenever any character needs advice, they go to Piper. And Nico does this at the very end of Sun and Stars, where he finally has a needed conversation that him and Piper probably needed to have several months prior, where they actually sit down and talk about Jason and his death. Spoiler alert, if you hadn't read Trials of Apollo yet, Jason dies. But the two beings both being very close to Jason in their own way, and them finally actually talking about it after Nico had been putting it off for so long after several near-ending world events, is, well, about time, because the heart as a character is, well, the diplomat and one to go to in the group when you need it the most. If you can't rely on the heart to talk to, who are you going to go to? Piper is an excellent example of the heart in the Reiner universe, and along with all other heart characters, has, well, the diplomat-based connection to others. Being able to connect to and understand others, along with being very kind and caring, is where their greatest strengths lie. Whether it be Katara in her use of hope, Chopper in his use of being a medical doctor, or Piper in her use of charm speak to basically talk to others and just get through a problem without needing to use swords. Or a cornucopia. Which again, why did they get rid of that for her? That's still an awesome weapon. I will get past this cornucopia thing eventually, but I'm just saying. A heart's character arc can also go through the idea of them needing to learn to help themselves before others. Hearts being naturally built to be selfless characters, and them needing to learn to take some time for themselves and say no, is excellent. I have never watched Owl House, but from what I know, Willow as a character is a great heart who the others can rely on. But her character arc revolves around her needing to be able to grow a spine and actually stand up for herself outside of just being the reliable one of the group. Now, I've never watched Owl House, so you'll have to go to another channel for that analysis on that character. But I have heard good things about the character along with Owl House. I just have not watched it because I have a long list of things to get through. But hearts as characters are meant to be, well, helpful and emotional cores. So them having to go through the character arc of learning to help themselves along with being helpful to others, or going to others for problems and not letting their burdens overcome them, is mind-blowing that these aren't done more often. Hearts as characters have evolved a lot, going from the chick to now an actual character outside of just being the damsel in distress. Having a heart character in a group is important, and I am glad that we're moving away from the old conventions of the heart just being the heart or chick, and having more stuff for the heart to do. I'm glad that we're moving past this. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. The heart is the emotional core of the group, and the one to go to with problems. The heart is going to be a character whose biggest strength is not in their power or magic or whatever power scaling this universe works on, but how they treat others and the care they give to their friends. So, these are my thoughts. Tell me yours in the comments. Tell me what you want to hear more down below. For today's question, who's your favorite heart from the storytelling? And, in your opinion, is it just a common trope for the healer of the group to also be the heart? Or am I reading into that too much? Anyways, that's all for today. I'll catch you guys in the next time. Bye-bye. I'm off to fight the moon.